Sugar, Rashad Evans, a true MMA legend who has captivated many and contributed an incredible amount to the rise of the sport. He's done battle with titans like Jon Jones, Chuck Liddell, Lyoto Machida, and Quentin Rampage Jackson, just to name a few. A lot of these men have been taller, physically stronger, and sometimes quicker than him, and yet with the help of what seems to have been his powerful mindset, he's been able to outmaneuver, surprise, and compete with the very best from across the globe. Rashad's been the UFC light heavyweight champion, winner of the Ultimate Fighter Season 2, mentor, friend, and pillar of support to not one, but two GOATs. And despite already having accomplished legend status, at the age of 42, now, under the Eagle FC banner, he is still taking heads and yearning to test himself in the cage. Rashad Evans, welcome to MMA Talk. So you're saying you guys are looking at gyms right now. I'm guessing that's probably to do with the Blackzillians reuniting.
Yes. We've been trying to work on it for a while, and I've been waiting to kind of get that feeling that, it's what I wanted to do. So I went ahead and got it done, went ahead and just kind of, even training with those guys is the reason, why I even wanted to fight again. Training Greg Hardy, getting back in the gym, just getting back on that routine and kind of feeding off the energy that the young guys bring, kind of brings that remembrance, okay, do you remember what it was like when you started, So once I started having that feeling, I competed again, I'm like, you know what, it's time to bring it back.
100%. I mean, it kind of tied. I think there's a study out there that when you talk to somebody in person, you exchange DNA. So just being around young people, I'm sure that gives you energy and just energy to really compete. Right now is, you're reinventing yourself, fighting in Eagle FC now, which is so cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right, man. Just these young guys, when they come to compete, they still have the idea of what it's going to be like when they make it to the top, and like these, these dreams and hopes and stuff like that. And, feeding off of that energy is very, very, very exciting. Ezekiel. I'm on the phone.
Oh, man. Yeah. Speaking of feeding off that energy, right?
Yeah. Loud.
It's cool. Okay. So you were saying, with the Blackzillians, you've been kind of a mentor in a way to a lot of legends. I mean, you used to train with Jon Jones. In the Blackzillians, you had Kamaru Usman, and just two guys that are going to go down as the greatest of all time, right? And it's so cool, and I think very interesting that you've been very close with both of those guys, right? While you guys used to train, and just talking about exchanging DNA, exchanging blood, sweat, and tears in a gym together, and them learning from you. I mean, that has to have fast track to them to their success. Just interacting so much with you. Can you bring me back to those days a little bit?
Yeah, working with sorry about that.
All good. No worries.
Yeah, so I mean, getting some working with Kamaru and Jon Jones and stuff like that, being able to be that that role model for them and stuff like that, it has meant a lot because both of those guys are really hard workers. I remember, when I first started, training with Jon Jones, he had that energy about him, just always, just a big student, always trying to improve his game. I remember there's times after training he had to sit there for some time afterwards and just kind of practice his moves and, just kind of let his imagination go, and we'll do like a little moving around and stuff like that, where we just kind of like practice all kind of moves and stuff. So, it helped me out too. So we were kind of feeding each other. With Kamaru, I brought him in the game, from being a wrestler. He didn't even know how to fight at all. And then I kind of brought him into the game as being a wrestler. And he lived with me for a few years. And then, I really had a chance to, mentor him and really just, bring him around the experience. With Kamaru Usman, he was with me everywhere I went, to these big fights and, just being able to see it firsthand, being able to see success on firsthand. It doesn't make it impossible for you to think that you can achieve the same thing. And, once Kamaru got to the big stage, he already knew how it was going to feel, slightly different because he's the one that's competing. But at the same time, he kind of knew the general feeling of it because he's been there so many times with me. So, it was like an old hat to him, you know what I'm saying? So he was able to really capitalize, and it wasn't just me there too, that he was able to, soak up like a sponge. We had Vitor Belfort, we had Tyrone Spong, who's a legend in himself, Anthony Johnson, Alistair Overeem, Michael Johnson. So there were a lot of guys who was already there that made a name for themselves that he had a chance to really, learn a lot from.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. Hearing how much time you had spent with these people. I bring this up because a lot of our viewers are also MMA fighters, they're training. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I'm listening. Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
So yeah, a lot of our viewers are just huge students of the game, right? And just on the road to mastery, just becoming amazing. Hey, what's up, Ezekiel?
This is Saul.
What's up, man?
This is Saul.
Yeah, so I was saying a lot of our viewers are pretty much, they're trying to learn. And from what I'm hearing, spending time with a mentor, as someone who's been down that road and has a lot of experience, that can really fast track your road to success, right? Especially if you're someone like Jon Jones, or I imagine Kamaru, and you guys are just absorbing knowledge like a sponge. I'm guessing that really helps.
Oh yeah, 100%. That was the most important thing. Being able to serve that, kind of apprenticeship. You know what I'm saying? Being able to have a chance to learn underneath somebody and having an apprenticeship is, it's an art form that's lost today. You know what I'm saying? Because there's not a lot of skilled jobs that people do. So just that whole idea of serving an apprenticeship is kind of lost, but it's extremely important because, if you have a good mentor, somebody good that you're serving under, they'll show you some of the pitfalls that you need to watch out for. So you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to hit your head on all those bad obstacles that really, causes career to fall apart, because, Kamaru's seen so many things in my career as far as, just different relationship with managers and all these, different kind of things that just happens in a fight world, that about time he got to the position, he knew what to avoid. And he's done a very good job of making sure that he doesn't put himself in positions, that I put myself into, that kind of, caused me a little bit of headache,
Yeah, and it's clear that Kamaru is super mentally strong and fit, which kind of leads me to ask, like, did you have mentors? I know last time we talked on Monday, you were saying that you grew up with 9 siblings to a single mother, and I imagine you didn't have, besides for your older brothers, I don't know what your high school life looked like. I know you played football, from at least what I saw on Wikipedia. You played wrestling, right? So I'm not sure if you had mentors that really helped you get to where you are today. I mean, you've accomplished legend status, right? And yeah, if you could build on that a little
bit. I did have mentors, guys who guided me, through and helped me to get where I am, and that's one reason why I try to make sure that I'm a good mentor for people, because I feel like I'm abundantly blessed because I did have the mentors that I had, and I felt like at every stage of my development, I had a really good mentor help me to really see a potential that I didn't see in myself, And when I was in high school, there's this karate guy. His name's Carl Brusino. He allowed me to take karate. Didn't really have enough money to afford it, but he allowed me and my friend to train. So and also it kept us out of a lot of trouble. It kept us out of a lot of trouble to be in the gym. Having to learn the code of Bushido and just learning how to have all the things that it takes to be a martial artist. We had to really bring in some of our wild nature because we were wild boys.
Oh yeah.
And I was a little, I used to give hell. So having that discipline really saved me in a lot of different ways. And then from there, I was in high school, and I didn't want to. Stop. And I didn't want to compete in wrestling. Like I signed up for a wrestling team, and I was naturally a good wrestler, but I just hated wrestling. Like it was just, it was during the winter time. It was cold, and the practices were long, and it didn't even feel like a wrestling team. It felt like a track team because we had to run around the gym for not even the gym, the school for about an hour before we can even do one wrestling takedown. So I was like, man, yeah, it was just really hard. So I just really didn't have the mental fortitude for it at first, or the mental appetite for it, I should say. And this coach, Dan Dixon, he would not let me quit. I mean, Bill Dixon, he did not let me quit. Bill Dixon was like, he said, I see something in you. And one day he said this in front of everybody. Like it was like when I was not, bless you, baby, not good at all. He says, there's somebody in here who's going to do some big things in wrestling. And he said that to me, and I was just like, he said Rashad Evans. And I thought he missaid my name, and everybody turned around and looked around at me like, him? Like he's absolutely trash, So
you weren't that great then, right? You were still developing.
I wasn't. I was still developing, so I don't even know what he's seen, but he's seen something in me.
Wow.
And that belief that he had in me, it really helped me out along the way, And also, in my MMA career, I got a chance to, spend some time with Dan Severn, the legend Dan Severn in Coldwater, Michigan. He was really good at kind of showing me the game of MMA and just really, just put me on game, because I fought in his shows when I first started and made my my MMA debut. Back then there was no amateur, so we just fought pro.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I fought in his shows, and then he kind of mentored me along the way. Then I would go to his gym and train and stuff like that. So it was a good experience, but to answer your question, having those mentors like that, it just meant absolutely everything. Not having those mentors, it would have made it difficult for me. I'll tell you that.
It's huge. And it's interesting that you didn't quit wrestling, even though you didn't really like it, and you didn't have that appetite for the sport, right?
Yeah.
Something held you through that. God bless Bill Dixon. Because one of your biggest tools in your arsenal, one of your biggest weapons has been your ability to wrestle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I'm always so grateful of, just being a wrestler, was the fact that it provided me with a grit and a mindset that I know a lot of people don't have, and being able to lean on my wrestling has been the mainstay of me being able to do what I was able to do in the UFC. Being a smaller guy, a lot of times I had to lean on my wrestling. I had to lean on my ability to use that aspect of my game to kind of take some of these big guys down, or kind of wear them down so then they weren't so big, and bring them down to my level. So yeah, wrestling has been that thing that has propelled me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of you being a little bit of not the biggest guy, right? You don't have any huge advantages as far as height or power. Like you are super fit, but really it's been your mindset and your wrestling abilities, your striking, right? I wanted to ask, Sarah, I'm chopping up here.
No, that's all good.
this is my first. I told you last time. I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah.
new to it, right? Uh, but yeah. So just psychology has been so consistent throughout your entire life, and that's the one pattern that I'm just seeing repeating and repeating to this day, right? You've went through growing up in not the easiest conditions, right? To studying psychology in college, to going on to the Ultimate Fighter season 2. And this is actually what I wanted to say. You weren't the biggest guy. You were a natural lightweight, right? And you went into heavyweight because that was the only one you could get into. Most people were like, "Oh, hell no, screw that! Like, I won't be able to compete." But something in you like told you to sign up. You did it. You won it, right? Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm picturing myself because sorry, if
yeah.
I'll let you finish in a minute, but I'm 5'10", and if I picture myself going up against like guys that are 255 pounds, 230 pounds right now, and just having to bulk a ton, that'd be difficult, man. And just you having done that is really incredible. I'm
Yeah.
sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's all good. Yeah, just you know, when I fought at heavyweight for the Ultimate Fighter show, it was crazy because I almost didn't get on the show. Like I sent in audition tape and stuff like that, and they liked me on tape, and they invited me to come out to Vegas. But then when I got there, they do these interviews. Back in the day, it was the producers of Spike TV,
Mm-hmm.
and Dana White, and a couple other execs were in the room, right? So I walk into the office, and I'm thinking like, I'm just getting done from college, so I'm still in my understanding of college, how they taught you how to do an interview, right? So I'm all buttoned up and stuff like that, and then the
Stiff,
minute I sit
kinda.
down, yeah, kind of real stiff, like I'm trying to do a job, right? I never had any kind of training, so I didn't really know what to expect. So I sit down, and the minute I'm sitting down, Dana's like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" And I was like, and
Oh,
then, he started swearing. He's like, "You gotta be effing kidding me!" And I'm just like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And he's like, he said, and I was like, I was just kind of taken back. I was like, "Dang, like, what do you mean?" And he's like, you're like 5 foot, you're like 5'5". I had guys that had to duck in here to get inside these doors, and they were wide too. And he said, "What's gonna happen is you're gonna get on my show, and you're too little. You're gonna get taken down and held down, and I'm have a born effing episode because you're too small to be on my show."
get
And he was
out.
like, "Yeah," he was like, "You Cuban Gooding Jr. looking mother." I
Holy
was like,
shit.
"What?" Yeah,
Dana's a
man. Dana was
savage.
raw. Dana was raw, man. But I kind of thought on my feet, and I was like, I feel what you're saying. I said, but when heavyweights were heavyweights, they weren't big and cumbersome. They were light and they can move on their feet. They were like Mike Tyson, like, Muhammad Ali. Those guys were like 215, 217 when they fought. And they fought these big, big guys, but they were able to beat them because they could move. I said, I want to bring some excitement back into the heavyweight division.
Boom.
So,
And you did that. You were the
yeah.
most mobile guy uh, in your day. I feel that's a bold statement to make, but you were so mobile for a light heavyweight. It's so fun watching you fight because
Yeah.
yeah, I love your style, man.
Thank you,
Big
man. I
fan.
appreciate that, man. Yeah, but I mean, that's, and as far as like competing with those guys, those big guys on the show, like I always used to wrestle, like in college, I wrestled the heavyweights. So I was like a 174, but all my
Hmm.
training partners would be like, 184, 197, and heavyweight. They'd be the big guys. So I got used to going with big guys, you know what I'm saying? So, going with guys like that big, they could
Hmm.
punch, but they couldn't really wrestle. I was like, oh, I'm good. I should be good.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have the fear. I didn't really know what I should fear at that point because I never really experienced like, getting an ass whooping. So I was just like, nothing's going to happen.
Okay. Nice. And it kind of didn't, right? You cruised.
Yeah. I mean, I cruised through, I mean, there are a lot of tough fights. Like when I fought Keith Jardine, that was a really tough fight. Mike Whitehead, that was a funner fight, but it was still tough. Mike Whitehead was really tough. But even in the finals, when I fought Brad Imes was really tough because, he got a lot better than he was when he was on the show. You know, when he was on the show, he was still kind of novice, but then about time he got to the finals, he was ready. He was polished off. He was ready to do it. You know, he was out there training with Matt Hughes and those guys, so he was ready.
Wild. And then you make it pro and you just accomplish amazing things. You go to war with freaking legends, right? You become the light heavyweight champion. Crazy. Can you talk a little bit about those times and maybe some tips? And I was just watching you on Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And you talked about how a big part of fighting is being honest with yourself, being honest with your fear, right? And overcoming that fear to really get in there and just contain yourself and be able to perform and do what you know best. Do you have any fights that stand out that you experienced like a ton of fear or anything like that?
I mean, almost every fight I have. Yeah, every fight I have fear. I can't remember going into one fight where I just wasn't, scared. You know what I'm saying? I think that, it's being able to understand where that fear is coming from, right? Being able to understand and put it in the proper place and really not make it more than what it is. I mean, I used to have a hard time and struggle with it when I would put it in the mindset of I'm not supposed to feel like this. Or normally walking around, I'm not supposed to feel like this, but I'm getting ready to fight. So that's how I'm supposed to feel when I'm getting ready to fight. So I had to find a way of normalizing what wasn't normal when it came to competing for fighting, right? Because you look to have that homeostasis in your mindset, thinking like this is how it's going to be. But then, once you get ready to compete, everything is just all over the place. Your emotions are all over the place. Your thoughts are all over the place. When you get ready to fight and it's that tough fight that you got to do, your mind can take you from, I'm going to kill this guy all the way to, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to get destroyed. I may get knocked out. It can take you there. You try not to go down that road. You try not to feed those thoughts, but it's a possibility. And especially if you already had that experience before, if you never lost before, then that kind of thought is so far from your mind and really not a reality to you or even something you even think about or give much thought to. But once it happens to you and once you have that feeling, that low that you've had an experience from a tough loss, then that feeling is there. So then the anxiety takes on a whole new complexion in itself. And then that's where the real fight is. The real fight is not against your opponent. Your opponent is, somebody who's out there trying to put his will on you, right? So you're trying to put your will on him. But in the middle of that, you have to fight and battle yourself. You have to make sure that you're able to, mentally bring yourself there and allow yourself to just flow and fight without thinking, because that's why you train. You train so you don't think. You train just so you start to just react. And when you're in that space of being that reactionary space where you just kind of react every single time that you see something, then you're in the moment. Then time just slips away. And then you're in this this present sense of mind, because that's what I used to love about fighting is the fact that you will get to a point where you'll be so present. And if you ever been so present in something where a moment doesn't exist outside of that, there was nothing before that, and there's nothing at the end of it because you're not processing anything. You're just in the moment. It almost feels like you're in eternity. Wow. It feels like time just kind of slows down itself. Like when you're so in a moment in a fight, and this is the biggest drug that a lot of athletes even fight for when they're way past their age, take it from me, I'm 42 and I just had a fight, a couple of weeks ago. So there's something that's happens when you're in that present sense of mind, because being so present, nothing else exists. And you're in this moment of time, but that moment of time feels like an eternity. When someone throws a punch, it slows down so much it doesn't even look like it's fast at all. You see everything. You're just like, wow, he's throwing slow today. You throw a punch, like, wow, I'm not really feeling too fast either. But then you go back and look at it on video, and you guys are flying with the speed, with the punches and the kicks and stuff. So it's something with being in that present sense of mind. But the only way you get to that present sense of mind and being able to just really go into your training and let your training take over is if you slay that mental dragon that kind of holds you back and makes you afraid to go out there and be your best you.
So you're saying fear and anxiety and those things creeping up, that self-doubt is really those feelings you have to overcome, and you got to direct your focus, right? Towards is a tip, like, do you think about positive things? Do you visualize yourself winning in those moments? Is that like a tip you would have for maybe a Jon Jones or Kamaru if you've had these conversations with them?
You know, I wouldn't even say even put it in the realm of winning. Like, of course, you want to orientate your mindset to having your hand raised, right? Of course, you want to have that vision in your mind, but the how and the why you can't really concern yourself with, because then that takes you down a road of what happens if he does this, what happens if he does this, and it just kind of takes you down a road of what is going to happen if. And if you go down the road of what's going to happen if, then some monsters start creeping in that you don't want to, so then you start going down a road that may get negative. It all depends on how you are emotionally feeling, and what else you're taking into it too. Say for instance that I may have a feeling of insecurity, but my life is good on the outside. Me and my wife are good. All those things are good. And then, I have these situations happen. I'm going to be able to get over that. But if I'm in a situation where my outside life is a mess, my girl's giving me a headache, I'm not able to, focus on anything, or, what I'm saying, I have any kind of disturbance in my life, and then I encounter that, that's going to be magnified times 10, and it's going to be a lot harder for me to bring it in. So you have to think about executing. Execution is the only thing you should think about. What is it going to be like to throw that perfect punch? How are you going to feel? What does a perfect punch feel like? What does it feel like when you're executing, you're moving so perfectly? You know what I'm saying? So perfecting the technique becomes your main focus. And when you think about perfecting the technique, then it just becomes about the X's and O's. And then pretty soon you're just worried about, okay, I'm just worried about execution. And when you worry about execution, then you start breaking it down and it starts to be less complicated.
Okay. Focus on what you know, focus on what you've learned, and don't be thinking about the dragon and the scary things lurking in the shadows. Focus on what you can control. That's cool.
Yeah, that's it. That's
cool, man. Great advice. Do you have any other rituals that you do maybe nowadays, or tips, tricks? I don't know, whether it's like things to get into a better state, whether it's maybe meditating in the morning or like a sauna and cold plunge after a workout. Do you have things that you're doing now that maybe you haven't been doing earlier in your career that you feel have had positive impacts?
Yeah, being able to meditate was something that I really started to get into as in the last few years, like in the last 4 years or so. And I did it when I was competing to an extent, but I felt like I've reached a new level within the last 4 years. Like I felt like I'm in more control over this, just my mindset. You know what I'm saying? So. And I'm not afraid either. Like before, I would get kind of afraid if I was kind of feeling a certain kind of way because I wouldn't know how to mentally stop it. But, since I've been, very dastardly in my psychedelic explorations, I kind of melted away the fear in a lot of those areas of facing myself. So I'm not afraid to look at some areas that may make me feel insecure, or even acknowledge the fact that I'm even feeling insecure or afraid, or any of those other things that I used to maybe be afraid to admit because I didn't want to seem weak or be weak, or didn't think that was unbecoming of somebody who wants to be champion. So those are the kind of tricks that I use, just the meditation, being able to go within, because at the end of the day, the world begins and ends with us opening our eyes and acknowledging everything else around us. You know what I'm saying? Like everything on the outside is is almost ancillary at the end of the day, because it ultimately depends on how we interpret everything that we see, you know? So it all starts with the eye inside of me. And I have to be able to reach into the eye inside of me and be able to, you know, see what's really going on and sort through what's real, or what did I just fabricate, or just even face myself in an area that is going to allow me to just keep it about the X's and O's and keep it about me just having fun and just ultimately finding a way to express myself.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems like you found such peace as of late, and you're doing these mental audits almost and throwing out things that are just not compatible, like things that are fabricated and not good for you, and you know how to separate those and throw those out now. It seems like and feels like just even watching you in this last fight with Gabriel Checo, you somehow seem different. Your style seems a little bit different, and it's so cool to see that you're just like reborn really as a new fighter. It's something from like a Dragon Ball Z video game or something, or like the show. It's like you went into a chamber of Zen or something, and you came out just so like a new version of yourself. It's so cool to see.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been a lot of work, you know. It's just been, you know, me just constantly just being able to just be honest with myself on so many levels, and really really bring out in myself what I feel like, you know, that I can, you know, and you know, go out there and compete in a way that, you know, that allows me to fully express myself and pushes away the fear of the what if this happens, what if this happens, you know, because that what if monster, once it appears, it can make you, you know, not really want to take chances. And to be honest, taking chances in a fight, you know, it is what really what makes you the winner. You know what I'm saying? The person who's willing to take the most chances, and the one who's willing to go that extra mile is going to be the winner of the event. You know, so I'm very lucky that I was able to kind of tap back into that. But that goes back to me, you know, making sure that I'm doing my meditation. And listen, sometimes my meditation is me sitting down with my legs folded or sitting up and just kind of, going within. And that way, like just sitting quietly. Sometimes my meditation is putting some music on, going into the garage and just hit the heavy bag until all thoughts just seem to just disappear. And I'm just in there working because I'm so exhausted. And I got a hot garage too in here in South Florida. So it gets to be about 90 something degrees in there, maybe over almost 100 degrees in there. Let me be honest here. It's like over 100 degrees in there. And it's super hot, it's muggy,
working out
it's
in a
humid.
sauna.
Yeah, it's working out in summer. And I just put the music on and I just hit that heavy bag until I just can't even hit it no more. But that's a meditation as well. And it took me being able to do that, being able to dissolve the fear of going that extra mile, of putting myself out there, of really taking the risk and not even worrying about what happens on the other end. You know, there's a story about about burning the boats, right? You know, like about
no retreating now. There's
no
way
retreat,
out.
no retreat. Yeah. So for me, I just burn the boats, man. I burn the boats, and I just kind of be like, you know what? There's no going back now. This is it. This is my home. I gotta
have
stay
to
and
have
fight
that
here.
mentality when you're put in the cage. At that point, the boats are burned. It's like that's when that state brings on that you talked about earlier, and that is so cool, so cool. Rashad, you've made so many changes in your life within the last four years. One of them being Eagle FC. Could you talk to me about how Eagle FC feels a little bit different, or early days Eagle FC feels different to early days UFC, and maybe some similarities?
Well, they actually feel very similar in the early days. You know, the UFC had that kind of small show feel. You know, hold on once.
We're back. Mic check.
Hey, one, two, one, two, three. Hey, I'm
Nine.
sorry about that, man. My uncle was calling, man. I don't know why.
No
It just
worries.
kind of works off like that. But yeah, I mean, they kind of feel similar. Eagle FC and early UFC, they kind of feel similar together. UFC had that kind of small show feel. But one thing I can say about the Eagle FC is that it had that small show feel, but at the same time, it was so professional. It was so professional. It was well organized. They didn't make us overwork doing too many interviews and all the other things that kind of can pull away from your performance.
Mhm.
They had a really good balance of making sure they were looking out for the athletes for the sake of having a great show, and also making sure they were meeting the media obligations, so then that way people were new to watch and to hype up the fight. So they did a really good job with that. Um, I really liked, the atmosphere in there. Really good atmosphere. It felt really good to fight in the cage. Like the cage felt really good. I didn't really feel like, you know, like it felt like a pretty decent sized cage. I know it's not one of the bigger cages, being the fact that it's where it's at.
Mhm.
The location is not the biggest location, so it's kind of like one that's in the Apex Center. So I
Mhm.
kind of prefer to fight in that kind of size cage.
Uh,
So it felt phenomenal, to be honest.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Eagle FC sounds so promising. Uh, and I look forward to you hopefully fighting again. I know last time you talked, you're saying I'm just kind of taking it one day at a time and see what comes up next. Are you still feeling that way?
Yeah, I'm still feeling like that. I was kind of, just gonna say I'll give myself a few months to kind of decide on what I'm gonna do, and just kind of enjoy where I'm at right now. I think that the thing about this whole fight game is always about like what's next, what's next. And I feel like what's next gets asked so much that what's
You get
happening right
burnt
now.
out, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get
Or
burned out, but you don't really appreciate like where you are right now, or the great win you just had, and that kind of situation. So I just kind of want to just kind of get my mind around some of the projects that I've been working on, outside of fighting, because being away from the fight for 4 years, I started to build momentum and started to, work and develop other things and other projects that I've been working with. I've been working with, NFT project that I'm launching, that's going to be launched in March. Metatoads gang, right?
there we
MTG
go.
Metatoads gang.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a parallel as well too with the Metatoads gang, and I'm also, launching this company called Umbo, which is
I'm
for
both.
functional mushrooms. Lion's mane, cordyceps, reishi, turkey tail, shiitake mushrooms, those kind of things. The mushrooms that are legal.
Mm.
And it's been a lot of fun just being a part of all of that. And I'm still working with Trevor with Onyx and stuff like that. So I've got some projects that I've been trying to get off the ground, and really trying to just branch out, because at the end of the day, I love fighting, but I mean, you got to make money, right? You got to make money, and you got to find a way, an easier way to make money besides getting punched in the face.
That's right. That's right. So cool. And like you were saying, I mean, you've got to have all your things in order, really. And if you have too many projects going on, running too many businesses, it gets a little bit hectic. And then you've got a fight coming up. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're burning all your bridges for a fight, like you can't stay focused on those other businesses, right? So
Yeah.
I love to hear that, like you're just comfortable with like being yourself, taking things at your tempo and not giving into the system or like expectations that others throw on you of like when's the next fight, when's that. So that's cool. That's cool. I mean, there's so much that people can learn from your approach to life. It's cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, um, if I've had many experiences in life. You know what I'm saying? I've hit my head a lot. So if I can, shed some knowledge and give some mind wine to anybody, so they don't gotta hit their head like I had to on so many different things, and I'll be more than happy to, because each one teach one, and that's how we are gonna come up out of this thing.
Rashad, you are going to be a sensei, man. You are a sensei right now. I mean, you have so much knowledge to offer to young fighters, and I feel like anyone that has the opportunity to join you with the rebirth of Blackzillians, we'll probably be seeing legends come out of that in 5, 10, 15 years, just based off of your track record and the people that have spent time around you. They've all achieved remarkable success, which also goes to show just like how much of a good person you are to be around, right?
Thank you, man.
That's cool. Rashad, random question, or maybe not so random. Who are some up and coming fighters that you're watching and you believe could become champions or superstars? Anyone that catches your eye?
Like in the UFC, you're talking about? That's already there.
Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be UFC. An MMA game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple guys that I work with and I train with at the gym. These guys are they're still at the amateur level, but they got a lot of potential. A lot of potential. Great size, great mindset. The thing is that these kids nowadays, they're just different. Like these kids nowadays, they are unbelievable. They're unbelievable what's coming into the gym these days, and it's just like just trying to find a way to keep those guys, get them with a hard-nosed mindset, because the thing that's different about back in the day when I used to do it versus these kids now is that a lot of these kids, they want to come in and that's all they want to do is fight. That's all they want to do is fight. That's all they're they don't work a job and stuff like that, so they're only fighting. So that's cool in the respect that they're pursuing a dream, but then at the same time they're not getting the other aspect of the life, what I'm saying? So they don't got money, what I'm saying? And they struggle and stuff like that, which could be good for them if they can make it out of that. But sometimes a lot of them don't make it out of it. They end up, getting burned out or getting caught up and never realizing that potential that you see in the gym, so that can be some of the most unfortunate things about having these young, talented guys that come in nowadays. But I mean, when I was growing up in the sport, I was working at a hospital. I was working at a Spirit Hospital, security guard. Putting bodies into the morgue. You know what I'm saying? That was part of my job. So, having that experience, that kind of like really put things in perspective, because I was pursuing my dreams to be a fighter, and then every single day that I worked, I would be putting bodies into morgue or taking them out of the morgue, or just, dealing with death, or just, life in just a different way.
Yeah.
And it really got me to put life in perspective, about like, how fragile life is, and, how sacred it is to just have a moment in time. And if you have a moment in time to, to really pursue something you want and you have breath in your lungs, then you really can't waste a moment, because life goes by just like that. It's so fast, and when I used to put people into the morgue, I used to be like, dang, I wonder if they did everything that they wanted to do, and it was just something that I said to myself, like, when I get done, when I'm getting pulled up in here, whenever it may be, I'm going to make sure I what I'm saying, I did everything that I wanted to do. I squeeze it.
Yeah.
I squeezed it.
That is cool. That's an experience that will shape you and will definitely change your experience on life. Yeah. And it goes back to the psychology that you've been talking about. It's crazy. You're such a mentally aware guy, and you're the right guy to be pushing this new front, or not so new, this ancient and rediscovered front on just ancient medicines, right? Psilocybin and all the things you're working on right now to hopefully make this world a better place. I mean, some of these studies are crazy with the like potential benefits and healing that it's doing. That's
cool.
I
mean, psilocybin has been something that I really started to look into and really developed a relationship with the mushroom and just kind of with the medicine in general. And it's helped me, it's helped change my life, change the way I've eaten, change the way, I behave, and just, the way that I look at life has changed so many things about just me in general, and, the thing about the mushrooms that it feels as if like it started to like heal my brain,
Mm-hmm.
heal my body, on a neurological level, and it's really hard to explain because, unless you've done like a serious regimen on it, then you're like, yeah, I know what you mean. But it's like, you know, people can't really understand the fact that, with these modalities like psilocybin, you have stuff like uh neuroplasticity that happens, and neurogenesis, where the nerves, grow back or reroute themselves, and,
Mm-hmm.
find a way to get to that signal that your brain is giving off. And that's the beautiful thing about the mushrooms, the fact that when you take the mushrooms, because when you think a certain way, you get in a pattern of thought, and some areas of the brain you don't end up using because you're just kind of in that pattern of life. But when you are in the mushrooms, the psilocybin, it lights your whole brain up. So areas where you don't really use a lot,
Mm-hmm.
it starts getting lit up, and then you have to find neurons and stuff like that to find a way to bridge it, to make the connection even better and make it even stronger. And when you do the psilocybin, it makes it so that it does that. I know, you know, there's great studies done with how psilocybin helps the body when it comes to, depression and things of a mindset, right? The mindset that people take it for, microdosing and things like that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really good for the mindset, but it's really good for the physical body overall. I know a guy
Yeah.
who, yeah, this is a crazy story. I know a guy who was a paraplegic. He hurt himself skiing, and he couldn't walk anymore, and
Mm-hmm.
he was wheelchair bound, and he did some psilocybin at a concert, and he started having sensations in areas where he hadn't had sensations since
Whoa.
he had the accident. And he just happened to be with his therapist, and the therapist was able to look and see his leg was like twitching and like moving in areas where it had never been before. So
Mm-hmm.
what he ended up doing was he ended up, adding psilocybin to his regimen of physical therapy. And because he started adding it to his physical therapy, he learned how to walk again.
Get out. That is
Yeah, he
crazy.
learned how to walk again. So,
Mhm.
and then the doctor told him, he said, what most likely happened. He said the psilocybin, helped your neurons form new pathways, and went around the severed area and
Mm.
found a way to reconnect that signal so you're able to, get it to the brain.
Mm.
So there's that neurogenesis aspect of it. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be finding out about this medicine in the next few years that's going to help a gang of people. Because if I can say anything that's causing us to have problems as a nation, or even as a world in general,
Mm.
is neurotoxins. The things that happen with with neurological health. Neurological health has to be taken serious, and I say that because all of these products that we use that are man-made, they're kind of neurotoxins, to be honest, and they're not good for you in the long run. So it ends up causing problems. So you know, having the ability to take a psilocybin or a mushroom, it allows your body to heal on that level. And psilocybin is not the only mushroom that helps. That's why we
Mm.
have the Umbo company, which focuses on lion's mane, turkey tail, reishi, and all those other ones, because all these mushroom compounds does so very well for your neurological health.
Mm. It's interesting that this is a fact, if I'm not mistaken, that uh, people that they've done studies on like people that live in tribes that don't have that much, but they're more connected to nature and the earth, right? They are
Mhm.
studies show that they are the happiest on the planet, right? And then people like me, right, who has access to everything, a warm shower, etc. And yet we battle these mental things like depression, etc., and we're just not as happy. And then another thing is I think we only use like 5% of our brain at any given moment. We still understand so little about this world, right? And it's just good to explore and learn other things, and push those frontiers and just, just learn more. I mean, just staying curious, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. And
Yeah, I totally agree, because it's like this, we built a world on top of nature, right? And nature supreme, because there's nothing before nature, right? So we built a world on top of nature. We kind of castigated ourselves outside of nature. So we've taken ourselves outside of nature, and because we've taken ourselves outside of nature, we've taken a piece of ourself away, because we are from nature, and that's what we are as well too, right? So we've become a stranger to our own nature, in a sense, and because we become a stranger to what we truly are, we feel this void in our life, and we just can't quite place it. There's nothing that can truly satisfy us, because there's just something that's missing that really we can't really put our finger on, but we all feel it at times,
Yeah, 100%. For me, I grew up in Chicago. I moved to Poland kind of by accident 3 years ago, and I live in this part of Poland that's surrounded by national forests, national parks, and I've got like 15 minutes to parks with moose and wolves.
Wow.
And I used to work out all the time, going to the gym. But what I've found I'm loving nowadays is going into the woods, and either there's sections of the woods where bushcraft is allowed, and just whipping up a little shelter that takes 2 hours, but you got to do some I just take deadwood and you just do some sewing, do some chopping, and it's the best workout ever, man. I have like sore muscles in areas I didn't even know could be sore, and I just feel so healthy. I'm just inhaling oxygen from all the trees around me and just the moss, etc. I just come out of there feeling exhausted, but so happy and sore. And just really, really goes to show that nature's good. Nature's good stuff.
It is. It's very healing. It's very healing for the mind, body, and soul,
Yeah, it's cool, man. Rashad, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? I mean, we've got tons of MMA fans and viewers that watch our YouTube channel, and I mean, if there's anything you want to share or talk about, it's your stage.
No, I'm good. I appreciate, the questions. I appreciate the conversation. I'm just an open book. So whatever you got, I'll answer.
Do you watch MMA Talk?
I haven't really watched much.
Get out, Rashad.
I haven't, man. I haven't watched it, but I will now.
You're a busy man. You're a busy man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will now.
Speaking of YouTube content, though, I mean, the world's changed so much. I feel like everyone that goes to bed nowadays, lots of people turn on YouTube content, and just consume all types of content through our phone. Is there stuff or things that you put your focus on, as far as like content you're consuming on your phone or computer?
Well, I'm more of a truther. So like I kind of look at like those kind of things, like on Telegram and stuff like that, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to look at. It's not allowed on YouTube, So
Yeah.
I go to other streaming areas and look at the kind of stuff that that I find
talked
interesting.
about so much yet, right?
Yeah, just talks about life and talks about where we all are at, and just talk about everything that's been going on for the last few years, and just kind of having different opinions, different from the narrative, alternative media. I've really pay attention to that, just because you got to be able to look at both sides,
Yeah.
and be able to really dissect both sides, and then, come up with your own understanding of what you believe the truth is. But I feel like, they're so different in their ways of bringing the same information, or not even same information, but around the same conversation, around the same topic, that it begs you to go and, be well informed. You do have to, look at more than one source, and definitely, question, things that you may see on the mainstream, because
Question
there's a
everything.
lot more to see. Yeah.
Yeah, staying curious, absorbing. That's so cool. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, it's all good.
Good stuff, Rashad. I I'm loving this conversation. I don't know how you are on time. I don't want to take time away from your family
Yeah.
and everyone, but I could talk to you for days. So
Yeah.
uh,
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, we can wrap it up
yeah,
right here. We had a long one.
cool,
Yeah. So
beautiful, Rashad. Thank you so much for talking with us at MMA Talk, and I look forward. I mean, if for the fans love it and stuff, would you be opposed to another one sometime in the future?
yeah, no doubt, man. I'll definitely come back and talk with you guys. You can have some questions, field some questions and have them ask me anything they want. And, I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. But, to be honest. So I
You're the man.
appreciate you. I appreciate you rescheduling and making the time to do this and get it out the way. And wish you the best. And I know I'm going to be talking to you again.
You're the man. Thanks a lot, Rashad. Have a great
All right,
evening,
peace.
man. Happy
You too.
weekend. Take care.
All right, you too, my man. Peace.